Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hello Dave with Down to Earth Astronomy. We are going to start this week with Project Greenfield. Now if you didn't watch the last couple of weeks, Project Greenfield is a project that TerraX and the code that we are running in the system Aurora. I talked about last week how we wanted to make the system into a farming heaven, both for people on console when Odyssey eventually releases, but also of course for all the existing players over on PC. What we are planning to do in the system more specifically is we have a lot of Odyssey settlements in the system, and we want those Odyssey settlements to be owned by an Anarchy faction, because as long as they're owned by an Anarchy faction, you can farm them to your heart's content without getting bounties. But of course, by farming the settlements, that's negative influence for the owning faction, and that means that over time they're going to lose those settlements, and then it's not a stable setup. That has already been covered in a ton of details, but Aurora is a little special because there is the code, which is an Anarchy player faction, and there is also a faction in there called Aurora Ring, which is also an Anarchy faction. This is a non-player faction. And our plans are that we want to take the Odyssey settlements, and we've made like a 6-step plan how to transfer the settlements around between different owners. So they're going to be transferred over to one owner, and then we're going to transfer them around between owners in the system. And the end goal is they're going to end up being owned by Aurora Ring. Once Aurora Ring owns the majority, hopefully all, the Odyssey settlements, we're going to dump their influence. Because they're native to the system, that means they cannot be retreated. So we're going to dump their influence down to as low as possible, while the code remain in control of the system. So now the code is in control of the system, but they do not have any Odyssey settlements. That means they don't have that influx of negative BGS work done against them when people are farming the settlements. But because the settlements are owned by Aurora Ring, they're sitting down there at like 1%. They're never going to be able to retreat out. They're never going to go into a war, because you can only go into a war if you're above 7% influence. So as long as we keep them below 7%, in theory, they should never lose control of those settlements, because they're never going to go into a war. And as long as they just stay down there, people just keep farming it. And this is the point if this becomes a place where people go to farm, because there's going to be so many random players coming in, constantly farming these settlements, it's going to be next to impossible for anyone who want to come into the system and try to mess it up once we get it locked in, because they would have to work against the whole community in order to build it up. So that's the point here, is the settlements will still be owned by an Anarchy faction, but you won't hurt the system as you do in other places. You will actually keep that as a stable point where people can come and farm, and it's going to be continuous, and it's still going to be an Anarchy system, so you can go there and you can get rid of your bounties from instead of factors and those kind of things. So it's going to be a super nice system if we get it to work. As I said, this is very much experimental. We have a multi-step plan laid out that we are going to try to execute. There's going to be hiccups along the way, absolutely. But so far, this is going to be a very interesting experiment. This is not something we're going to have done tomorrow or next week, not even next month. This is going to take some time, and it's going to require a tremendous amount of work. And that's also why we've set up a dedicated section over on the Discord server, where every day there will be posted updates on what work is needed in Aurora in order for this to happen as we go through the plan. We're not going to share each individual step of the plan, but they will be posted every day. Like, this is the work that needs to be done today. These are the things we need to do, as we have like some very experienced BGS people who will steer the system in the right direction. If you are interested, of course, there is a link for Discord in the description. It is discord.d2a.com. Over to the more regular news for Elite. Frontier has announced that this week we're going to get update 9 for Elite Dangerous Odyssey. Exactly what day they're going to release the patch, we don't know yet. So it could be today, could be tomorrow, it could be Thursday, Friday, I don't know. But we know it's going to come this week, and update 9, of course, is the one that's going to bring us the new combat multi-seat SRV, which I'm very much looking forward to. And what I'm even more looking forward to is the new multi-limpet. They're going to be a number of different limpet controllers that's going to be able to launch multiple different types of limpets. So there's going to be a mining one that can do both do prospector and collector limpets, which I think is awesome. So very much looking forward to that. And that is of course something I will be covering extensively. There's going to be some rework of some of the different builds around, just to see if they can be optimized with these new limpet types. We are only going to be able to carry one of these multi-limpets per ship, so they're not going to be massive, like, sweeping changes happen to the builds. And we haven't seen the hard stats on them yet. We know the different types and what type of limpet, but we don't know what sizes they come in and what power draw they will take, a lifespan on the limpets and range on the limpets, those kind of things. Those hard stats, we don't have that yet, so that's going to be interesting to see, and that's definitely something that I will be covering in a lot of details when we have this here on the channel. Another thing they're going to add in update 9 is settlement site NPCs that gives out missions. That means you can now go to an Odyssey settlement where there will be NPCs. You will go up to that NPC and they're going to offer you missions, just like there is a mission board at the settlements where you can pick up missions from as well. So they're going to function more like small stations, basically. Just as we have on the station today, there are NPCs standing around that's going to give missions. We're going to have the same at the Odyssey settlements. So all that is coming in update 9 at some undisclosed time this week. Frontier is also preparing for all the end of the year events, and they already posted their end of the year community update, which is a post they do every year where they usually look back at some of the things that happened the past year, and they also looked forward at what's going to happen next year. Now, they did mention in it that the biggest thing they're going to have, they currently have planned for next year, is fleet carrier interiors. Now, we already knew fleet carrier interiors was coming. We kind of guessed it wouldn't be here in update 9, so that it was next year, we kind of already knew. But I think what is more interesting is all the stuff that wasn't mentioned. And as many also pointed out in the thread below, the forum thread, was there is no mention of consoles whatsoever, not with a word. And that kind of puzzled me, because we are getting awfully close to a year now. We're not there yet, but we're getting close to a year after Odyssey originally was released on PC, and we're still not seeing it on console. We don't even have any kind of news on any kind of timeline about, are we talking 2 months? Are we talking 2 years? Is it ever gonna come? And I can kind of understand that a lot of the console players are kind of feeling like they're being left out again, because this is kind of thing has happened before. I should say, though, that Frontier does have a end of the year live stream planned for Thursday this week. And it's usually of those live streams, they do like to keep some news that they can reveal doing a live stream like that, since it is a relatively large event. If they were going to do any kind of announcement of a console release, I would expect that it may happen during that live stream on Thursday, so I would recommend you tune in to that. Otherwise, you can of course just watch Hello Dave next week, where we'll keep you updated with whatever news Frontier has to share with us later this week. Last week, I mentioned that Frontier is hosting a community meetup, which was intended to be on the 10th, that means on Friday. But as I also said last week, that, well, with all the COVID, is that really going to happen? And no, it's not. Frontier has postponed it until the 25th of February. So that means if you already have tickets and you can't make it on the 25th, then you can get a full refund. There is a forum thread about it where you go, and there's all the details. I'll be posting a link for that in the description as well. I don't know if there are still tickets available, but at least Community Meetup is still in Cambridge, and it's going to be on the 25th of February if you are interested in that. Over in Star Citizen, the developers, Cloud Imperium Gaming, hosted a live stream with a lot of the different developers behind the game, and they were talking about lots of different things, but one of the things I found most interesting is that the 600 Eyes, both of them, is going to get a rework, so they're going to be brought up to the gold standard. The 600 Eye has always, at least it's the interior that's been reworked. I don't think the exterior is going to get a lot of rework, but the interior part of it is going to be, it sounds like almost completely reworked. And it's always been a little weird, the layout of the ship. There's been multiple points around it where I think, yeah, I mean, I like they have a glass floor underneath the bartender, and the sleeping quarters for the crew on board the ship is just one big room with a bed in each corner. It was really, really weird. So that's gonna get a complete rework. They're gonna make the vehicle hangar bigger, so they have room for bigger vehicles in it, which is nice. That's all going to mean it's going to be able to carry more cargo with the rework. And of course, the crew gets individual cabins instead of this big dorm room weird kind of thing that they have right now. And of course, the Explorer variant is also going to get a med bay installed, which I think is pretty cool. That we're going to see more med bays on ship now that medical gameplay is becoming a thing in Star Citizen. Exactly when we're expecting to go stand up, I'm actually not 100% sure on the SecretLab, but I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I'll be doing some ship tours of the interior once we have the reworked interiors for the SecretLab touring, as well as this exploring variant of it. And finally, I just need to talk about the live stream tomorrow. If Update 9 has been deployed by tomorrow, then of course we're going to jump into Elite, play around with the new multi-crew SRV, with the new limb controllers, all that fun stuff. If not, I'm not expecting it to be, but if it's not, then I have two other things I've been considering. Either to go into Star Citizen and do some mining. I'm doing a lot of mining in Star Citizen, made a ton of cash from it. I'll get the prospect out and let's go mine some Continuum. Alternatively, which I think is more likely, Frontier Pilot Simulator, which is a game I've been covering as it's been developed over the last many years now, is going into full release tomorrow. It's the final release day or full release day of the game. So I thought it could be fun to maybe go and play that, just to switch things up and try something a little different. So I think it's most likely it's going to be Pilot Simulator tomorrow, or alternatively it's going to be Star Citizen or Elite, depending on whether Update 9 is released or not. But let me know in the comment section if you have any preference for what kind of content you will see for the live stream tomorrow. But that's going to be it for this week. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.